Starting in 2008, Marvel Entertainment achieved a tremendous level of Hollywood success by adapting the one aspect of superhero comics that always went ignored: a shared continuity between all of its characters and stories, a cinematic universe. Though Marvel was not the first to utilize a shared world for their on-screen characters, it was the first to design and lay the groundwork for these crossovers from the beginning, instead of combining them retroactively or settling with simple Easter eggs. This planning paid off with the explosive success of the Avengers, which made every company in Hollywood turn their heads. Panicking at the thought of missing out on the boatloads of cash this new gimmick could bring them, studios scrambled to find anything they could retrofit or adapt in order to cobble together a cinematic universe of their own. Sony's quote-unquote Spider-Man universe, Paramount's Transformers and G.I. Joe franchises, Universal's Fast and Furious franchise, and their ironically failed Dark Universe, Star Wars, in which Disney imitates its own success, and Warner Brothers with The Conjuring and the Monsterverse, to name a few. But Warner Brothers also had something that was uniquely exploitable within its treasure trove of intellectual property: DC Entertainment. And unlike Marvel Studios, who were forced to work with their more unpopular characters due to a decade of licensing out their stars, DC had full access to its catalog. Of course, this included the two most famous and best-selling superheroes of all time: Superman and Batman. Two characters who were already Hollywood success stories in their own right. With a roster so rich in potential, striking while the iron was hot should have guaranteed a major win for Warner Brothers. In fact, all of its eventual faults and fumbles weren't enough to stop it from becoming the 9th highest grossing film franchise of all time to this day. However, the DC Extended Universe was still ultimately a failure, deemed so by critics, audiences, and the box office. In this series, we'll be doing an autopsy to find out how it failed, why it failed, and what point there is in discussing these questions today. Join us as we look back at this decade-long franchise, spanning 16 films in one show, starting here with Man of Steel. Welcome to the DCPU, where a good death is its own reward. I'm your host, Frank, joined by my co-host, Thomas.
I'm Thomas.
Today we're going to be talking about Man of Steel. Man of Steel was released on June 14th, 2013, but before that, I think we should start with our first official segment, the history of the project. So, in 2008, after the lackluster reception to Superman Returns, Warner Brothers Pictures Group president Jeff Robinov confirmed to the Wall Street Journal that the company had made the decision to reboot the character.
That same year, Warner Brothers was taking pitch meetings from several comic industry writers, including Grant Morrison, Jeff Johns, and a collaborative pitch between comic writer Mark Millar and film director Matthew Vaughn. Meanwhile, David S. Goyer and Christopher Nolan were story writing The Dark Knight Rises. During a session in which they were struggling to figure out the third act, Goyer procrastinated by sharing his idea for a Superman film to Nolan. Nolan loved the idea, and the two successfully pitched Nolan loved the idea, and the two successfully pitched Goyer's idea to the head of Warner Brothers the very next day after Nolan pulled some strings.
That's kind of amazing, right? The amount of influence that Christopher Nolan has at this time, that he's able to just get on the phone with the head of the company and arrange a meeting to pitch a Superman movie and then just, have it bought like a day later.
I just like to picture them sitting in the writing room. He's like, "So what should we do for the third act?" He's like, "Let me tell you about the story I have for a Superman movie."
So the interview that I found with Goyer discussing this, he talked about how they were struggling. They were really struggling to hammer out the third act of Dark Knight Rises. So they took like a week off. And then during that week, Goyer was like working on this idea and pitched it to Nolan when he came back. Because apparently the two of them, they just walk away for a bit and they say it helps clear their minds. But it sounds like Goyer was just thinking about other stuff.
It's kind of crazy the amount of pull that Nolan had at the time, considering he hadn't made that many big movies before this, I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, before the Dark Knight trilogy, he just had Memento and some other small movies.
Doodlebug.
Because Batman Begins was 2005, and then after that you've got The Prestige and Dark Knight, which, he just explodes in popularity, and then you get Inception and all the rest. But, for this guy to have a direct line to the head of the company is just really impressive and speaks for the amount of influence he had riding the wave of these Batman movies.
I mean, I guess he did have 4 hits in a row, but I don't think it's till after in the double whammy of Dark Knight and Inception.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a difference between having a film that's well received and one that makes a shitload of cash. And the shitload of cash is really the only kind the studio will care about and listen to you as a result of. You can make good movies all day, but if they don't make money, you're not going to have a red phone that leads right to the Warner Brothers office. So I've got some interesting facts here about Man of Steel's marketing. There was a specific appeal to Christians. Warner Brothers hired a Christian-focused marketing firm, Grace Hill Media, to promote the movie specifically to Christians, with explicit comparisons made between Superman and Christ in official marketing materials, including custom trailers and pamphlets designed for pastors to use in youth services. I thought it would be interesting to take a look at one of these pamphlets that they commissioned from the Christian marketing firm. So let's take a look here and see what we've got. Here we have the ultimate example of obedience. Although fully aware of the bloody cost, Jesus decided to willingly submit himself to Roman soldiers. Jesus is arrested and tried as a common criminal, sentenced to death for crimes he did not commit. He pays the price for our individual and collective sin. The one, genuinely innocent man takes on the burden of a gravely fallen people. The Man of Steel faced a similar test. Should he lay down his life for humanity? Do we deserve such sacrificial justice from Superman? The words of his father Jor-El resonate. You can save them. You can save all of them. He places Superman's life in context. He'll give the people an ideal to strive towards, etc., etc. Man of Steel is about Superman clarifying his calling, grasping the full scale of the responsibility set before him. It is about becoming a man of steely resolve.
Really?
Jesus also lived much of his childhood in obscurity. His dual identity as fully God and fully man is kept a secret. Yet there is a clear purpose to these alter ego years in Jesus' life. What Jesus and Superman both give us, through their hero actions but also their human actions, is hope. In fact, when Lois Lane calls Kal-El what the S, they're just describing the movie. It's a Kryptonian symbol for hope, just as a cross will become a Christian symbol for hope.
Did Jesus wear a cross on his chest?
No. No, that would be like if I wore a noose or something. There was also some viral marketing and an ARG. Warner Brothers published a mysterious website, dsrwproject.com, and the only reason why people figured out that it was related to Warner Brothers is because the copyright information was in the corner, and there was a series of audio signals to be decoded by visitors of the site, and eventually the online community figured it out. Finishing the puzzle unlocked a link to another website with a countdown, and when the countdown ran out, it unlocked the film's first trailer.
They don't do cool stuff like that anymore.
No, not really.
It's all the leakers. They're like, oh, they're actually coming out with a Superman movie.
Yeah. You know, this kind of thing is playful, it's fun. You don't really see ARGs or viral marketing like this anymore because everything is just so quick to leak, and also it's just so much easier to just post something on social media. I mean, this is 2013, you know, social media is still kind of not...
It's like in its infancy stages, kind of.
I wouldn't say infancy, but it's not ubiquitous.
Toddler stage.
It is in like its adolescence. Like, you know, it's rising in popularity, but companies haven't figured it out yet.
I mean, I don't even know what was around. I mean, was Twitter around at that time? It had to have been.
Yeah, Twitter, Facebook, those were around.
Maybe they weren't as mainstream.
Right. I mean, there was no... What was there, I'd call them mainstream, but there was just a significantly less number of users. Over time, the film's official website would change to include new cryptic teasers. The first was a series of drip-fed images that would slowly, over the course of days, reveal the emblem of General Zod. After that, eventually, a video message from Zod demanding the surrender of Kal-El appeared on the site. This is actually the same broadcast that shows up later in the movie.
So now let's take a look at the state of movies, DC, and the characters of the DCEU at the project's release. Around the same time that Man of Steel released, within around the same month kind of date range, some of the other movies that were released were This Is the End, World War Z, Monsters University, White House Down, Despicable Me 2, Lone Ranger, Pacific Rim, and Grown Ups 2. Despicable Me, that kind of threw me. I didn't think that movie was that old.
I have to say, looking at the lineup of what movies were coming out, you know, just a few weeks before and after Man of Steel, it's a pretty weak lineup to me.
There's not much competition, like direct competition.
No, the only thing here that like screams blockbuster to me is Pacific Rim. I mean, maybe World War Z, but the rest of it is either like comedies or kids stuff.
Yeah, I mean, This Is the End is for adults.
And Lone Ranger, I think, was a big bomb. Grown Ups 2, yeah, I mean...
I could see them thinking Lone Ranger would be a competitor.
Oh yeah, but for sure, this was kind of open season. I think Man of Steel didn't have any strong competition here, especially not when it came to superhero stuff. I mean, if your closest superhero competition is Lone Ranger, oh man, yeah,
What do you
they
mean? Adam Sandler in Grown Ups 2 is right there.
yeah, you know what,
Superhero of comedy.
the superhero of comedy.
So this was the first DC live-action film since the end of the Dark Knight trilogy a year prior. Which honestly, I guess I didn't really think or realize that they were that close together.
Yeah, only a year apart. Dark Knight Rises was 2012, right? So
I can't imagine if it was today, the rumor mill we already have is Robert Pattinson gonna be in the new DCU. They'd be like, is Christian Bale gonna be Batman in Man of Steel universe?
yeah, no, and it's actually interesting because in that Wall Street Journal article I talked about earlier, the president of the Warner Brothers Picture Group talked about how at one point there was going to be a Superman versus Batman movie. And I think their plan was to do Brandon Routh and Christian Bale.
Yeah, I do remember that too.
But that obviously fell apart because Superman Returns made no money. And also, I don't see it, man. They were trying to do that for a long time, and eventually they would, but
They had that logo in I Am Legend.
Yeah, they did have the logo in I Am Legend. And I don't know if that was like explicitly meant as a tease for like I think it was supposed to be in 2008, the Superman versus Batman movie that they were originally going to make. But that's for a different episode. And DC Animation was still actively going in this time. The final half of the Dark Knight Returns adaptation had come out only 6 months prior, and the director, Jay Oliva, was actually Man of Steel's storyboard artist. Also interesting to note, DC Animation had put out a Superman movie less than a month before Man of Steel, Superman Unbound. Have you seen that?
Yeah, first of all, I've seen The Dark Knight Returns. That's pretty good.
Oh, well, yeah. No, it's great.
But I definitely have seen Superman Unbound, but I don't remember anything about it. I used to watch all those movies, but yeah, I think he was fighting Brainiac?
Yeah, I think that's what I saw too when I looked it up. I haven't seen it.
And in the comics realm, DC was nearly 2 years into its New 52 lineup, which marked the first hard continuity reset since the 80s with Crisis on Infinite Earths. And if you know anything about the comics, the New 52 was pretty controversial.
Yeah, I didn't read any of that at the time, but I did get little glimpses of it through like advertisements and articles in magazines like Game Informer, and I heard that it was not very good. At least pretty mixed, let's say.
Yeah, it had its bright spots, like Batman by, I almost said Zack Snyder, by Scott Snyder was one of the highest praised comic runs recently, but then also a lot of the other ones were just really bad.
Yeah, I don't know how the Superman New 52 comics were, but I do know that
I would say it definitely had an influence on this because he was more edgier and like kind of darker.
We'll talk about the influences as we discuss the story. I did some reading and some research, and I couldn't find any talk about direct inspirations from Goyer, Nolan, or Snyder, but there are a lot of moments in the film and a lot of segments of it that feel very ripped from the page, and we'll talk about that here. In our next segment, the official
plot synopsis discussion.
But we'll talk about those in our discussion of the plot. So we're going to be breaking the plot down section by section, discussing what we liked, what we didn't like, any notes we have on each part of the film before we move on to the next. Thomas, you want to take the lead on this?
No, just kidding. Okay, so to start the movie, we start on the planet Krypton, which is destabilizing from the mining of the planetary core. Just before the planet implodes, Krypton's top scientist, Jor-El, steals and infuses the genetic codex of Krypton into his newborn son, Kal-El, the first naturally born Kryptonian in centuries. Jor-El, with the help of his wife, Lara, manages to send Kal-El in the spacecraft towards Earth before he is killed by General Zod during a coup d'etat.
Right. So let's talk about Krypton. What did you think of that?
I always forget watching it every time, but I think I timed it somewhere. It's like the first 20 minutes of the movie.
Yeah, something like that. I think when I paused, it was like the first 22 minutes. Now, what's actually crazy is in the 70s Superman movie, the Krypton segment is actually longer.
Oh, really? I've never seen that one, to be honest. But
oh, really? Yeah. Well, I mean, it is ridiculous, and later on, I'll talk about why I think it's kind of obsolete to even have this, but I do kind of like it.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, I think the look of it is really interesting. It's like kind of part Pandora from Avatar, like part H.R.
I was kind of
Geiger.
getting that a little bit too.
Yeah, part H.R. Geiger, like from Alien. Part Matrix with like the lab-grown babies that are kind of like being plucked like fruits off these stems.
I forgot about that part too. I was like, oh yeah, I forgot that they just had them like growing on tree branches and like some weird amniotic fluid.
And I was also getting the kind of vibe that this is like aesthetically similar to the new Dune movies.
I also kind of thought that, especially with the armor that they're wearing too.
Yes, the armor, it reminded me a lot of House Atreides, you know, the kind of thing that like...
Denis Villeneuve, what a hack. He's ripping off Zack Snyder.
Yeah, seriously. And I also thought it was interesting that Jor-El, you know, he's not a race purist or a eugenics guy like Zod, but when he goes to the council or whatever, he's still recommending colonization as the plan for survival, which, you know, that's not unlike what Gunn's Jor-El talks about in the movie that just came out this year, which a lot of people online complained about. They bitched about it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you can't help but think of the comparison between them because, especially of the criticism. But yeah, I was also like, this isn't really that different.
No, I mean, Jor-El, I mean, we don't know enough, I would say, about the new Jor-El. I mean, clearly
Yeah,
he doesn't look at humans as kindly as Russell Crowe does here.
But Russell Crowe's still talking about like, yeah, you're gonna be like God to them, dude.
Yeah,
like, you gotta
you're
lead them.
You're going to be a god, you're going to be a messiah and a beacon to these people, you're going to lead these people, you know, already kind of positioning humanity as a lesser than, like a second class.
Ooh, I have a point about that too.
Yeah.
They don't really say, I mean, they sent him in the ship or whatever. How long does he take to get to Earth?
So, I think it's like kind of a wormhole thing. Like there's
Okay,
like
so it's like instantaneous.
Right, you know, it's kind of like that big triangle portal where they send Zod and all his henchmen with the penis ships into the Phantom Zone.
I always forget about that, and I'm like, yep, that's a penis.
It is really, really hard to ignore that they're penis ships.
Because I was wondering, because they show, he's like, yeah, this is Earth. It's like primitive. They're young there. But then also it just showed like Earth today.
Yeah.
And I wasn't sure because I mean, calling them, I don't know, primitive is maybe a bit of a strong word.
Well, compared to Krypton, they're certainly primitive. And I do think it is some kind of like a light speed thing.
Yeah, I feel like it is too.
Michael Shannon? How do you feel about Michael Shannon as Zod?
I like him. At the beginning, I was, he busted in. He was yelling at them for harvesting the corn. I'm like, you know what? He's not bad. And then he was like, yeah, and we gotta do the main line of all these different genetic strains. And I'm like, oh, now he's going on a eugenic Nazi rant.
Yeah.
Good job.
I think he's pretty fun in this. I think he feels kind of typecasted as just like a guy who barks like a dog. Like, Zod is always growling and screaming in this. I mean, not always. Sometimes he's a little more stoic, but he's a pretty vicious guy. I think Michael Shannon kind of chews the scenes that he's in. He's great.
I would agree. I mean, I think he did a great job. He doesn't have that much to do, but I mean, with what he does good. But during the opening, so Jor-El is like famous scientist, but he has some fucking hands. He's like kicking ass.
Yeah, that fist fight was actually pretty exciting. I honestly found that more exciting than most of the action in this movie, but we'll get to that.
I don't know if in general Superman media if he was like in the military too, but General Zod's said to be the military leader. So defeating him in like a fist fight or whatever is pretty insane.
Yeah, I don't remember if it's established here or later on when Zod talks to Clark, but they are supposed to be friends, so it could be implied that they serve together.
Okay, yeah.
It could also just be like a mandatory like martial arts training that every Kryptonian has. I mean, Zod should still have an advantage, but yeah. How did you feel about the genetic codex and the artificial births?
I don't mind it, but I wasn't sure if I liked how it played into the plot overall. I think it's cool to have it be different from Earth because, in a lot of movies, they have these alien planets and they're like kind of just Earth, just with different set dressing. But I mean, this makes it a little different. Yeah,
no, I agree. It's cool. It's different. My question is why they're doing it, which they kind of address later, but they kind of don't. and we'll talk about that in a bit. The genetic codex is something that I thought the movie made up, and looking online, it seems like most fans think this too. At least the ones on Reddit, they're pretty confident. But they're confidently incorrect because in John Byrne's Man of Steel run in the 80s, this is something that's briefly mentioned, the genetic codex. It's part of the opening pages, that Krypton has artificial births, and I think in that book, Clark is one of them. So in this movie, it's kind of interesting that he's a natural-born baby, because that's a change that Man of Steel made. Moving on, Kal-El lands in Kansas, where he's adopted by Jonathan and Martha Kent and named Clark. As he grows older, due to his Kryptonian physiology and Earth's yellow sun, he develops superhuman powers that Jonathan urges him to keep hidden, even refusing Clark's help years later during a tornado storm in which he loses his life. Burdened with guilt over Jonathan's death, Clark travels the globe, hiding under various aliases, seeking a purpose in life. So, what did we think of Clark's origin on Earth?
So, this section, constant flashbacks and forth, seemed a little weird to me, because it's almost like he has amnesia, and then he'll see something that he flashes back to his youth.
Yeah, I get what you mean. I mean, it doesn't help that he's so, I don't want to say wooden, but he's very stoic.
Yeah. Like, he, looks at a shirt, and he's like, my father had that shirt, and then he's like a flashback.
Yeah, the intercutting between his past and present day, I'm not sure if I enjoyed that. I think I would have liked it more if they just told the origin straight up.
Yeah, I didn't necessarily hate it. I didn't love it.
Yeah. Clark's freak out in the classroom where his X-ray powers kick in, and he's running away from his classmates, is actually lifted straight from Superman's Secret Origin, which I read a little bit of before we started this.
I liked that part.
Yeah, I thought that was cool. I think the effects there are cool as well. I think what his mom says to him there about making the world smaller is actually really nice. That's a nice piece of writing. And from what I read, because I read quite a few Superman comics, not, thoroughly, but, the first few issues of these runs that people said were influences, that doesn't seem like it was taken from anything. That line where he says the world's too big, and his mom says make it smaller, that seems like it's just an original piece of writing there, and I thought that was really pretty.
Yeah, that was a pretty cool scene. I think it's something that could get glossed over a lot in, other Superman stuff, or just even other, maybe, superhero movies, but I kind of like how you see him have to deal with, being overstimulated by his senses being set to, 100 times the strength of a normal human.
Yeah, and it is interesting how that comes into play later when he's fighting Zod and the henchmen, where, he's got sort of an advantage, at least at first, because they're just not used to fighting in a different atmosphere like this. They are technically stronger on Earth, but they don't know how to actually use that strength, which is, that's cool. That's fun.
I think that's a neat concept, too. And it also helps level the playing field.
Yeah, definitely. Also, when he was a kid, I thought it was really funny that the last thing those kids hear before they nearly drown to death is Pete Rose saying Dick Splash, which, to me, is an insult no child at any point in history has ever used.
Clearly the writers weren't bullied enough.
Yeah.
Dick Splash.
Because if Goyer was really bullied, he would know Dick Splash is not, that's not something that bullies ever
Maybe he said something else before and they had to re-record it.
Maybe he called him Dickhead. I don't know.
At the beginning, too, I just had a note about because, he's on the fishing boat when we first see him. When he goes to pick up the rope and is almost crushed by the pot, the guy's like, watch it, dumbass, you're gonna get yourself crushed. Like it wasn't a freak accident that the cage fell. He's acting like that's gonna happen every 5 minutes and he has to, look out for his surroundings. But then also, when he goes to rescue the people on the sail, or on the oil rig, I was a little confused because he just kind of bursts down a door and they're like, oh, we can leave now. But what was stopping them from leaving before? Because it's not like he flew them out because he can't fly yet. So was it just that the door was closed? Because otherwise they're going to have to run through fire.
I just kind of assumed that the door was jammed or something. Like some support beam fell in front of it.
But then also that scene after where he's in the water with the whales. I remember people always were like, dude, Aquaman sent those whales.
Really?
Yeah.
God.
Those people online would be
Oh.
theorizing like, what if Aquaman like could see that Clark would help them and he sent some whales to help save him and wake him up? And I was like, that makes no sense, but whatever.
Yeah, people are so desperate to. I mean, at this point, DC fans were so desperate, right? I mean, they would take anything as like crumbs for, and just a hint at what Marvel was doing,
Mm-hmm.
Because at this point, the Avengers had already come out, and DC's just doing nothing like it. So it would make sense that fans online would just be trying to piece together.
They're
anything.
looking for breadcrumbs. They're like, oh, please give me some water, sir.
Yeah. They are starving. Now, continuing with the flashback here, I think Kevin Costner does a really good job. Like, I think he gives such a warm, heartbreaking performance, and I'm gonna say maybe the only great performance in the movie. I don't agree with Pa Kent as a character, and maybe we'll talk about that a little more, but, I don't know, it was just heartbreaking. What'd you think about that?
So, I do have some thoughts on them. Is this the part where they do the tornado part, too?
Well,
Or is
Wikipedia
that
is
late?
lumped
Oh,
all
no,
together.
that's later.
So. But we can talk about the tornado. But
Okay.
go ahead.
Because it does have in the next paragraph, but whatever. So I did like him as Pa Kent too. I think that in the context of the story, I can kind of empathize with his characterization because, this is a world where they don't have people like Clark. And I think that I have a quote from him that says like people are afraid of what they can't understand. I think that rings really true. When he says when they do the bus thing, he's like, "Should I have let them die?" And he says maybe. I mean, the way he looks, obviously in the dialogue he says maybe, but the way he looks away and like doesn't look him in the eyes kind of tells me that like he agrees with what he did. I just think that he's like an overprotective father and he's scared of what will happen to his son because he's different.
I actually agree with you. I think that, going into this, everyone rails on Pa Kent for being this asshole who tells his son never to save anybody. But he does seem a lot more conflicted than that. I do agree that the maybe he is confused. And there's a part later, before the infamous tornado, which is completely undefendable. There's a part where they're driving together and he says something along the lines of, "We found you, we're doing our best, but we're just making this up as we go along."
Mm-hmm.
And that's something parents say. Every parent is making it up as they go along. They're trying to do their best, but they don't know. Nobody knows. He's worried about his son and what could happen to society. So I totally get that. I think that excuses the whole reaction to the bus scene. And, that leads us into the scene where he introduces Clark to the spaceship. And this is actually taking a couple moments from the comics. One of the big influences on this movie, like real huge influence, is Superman Earth 1. His like brooding nature and reluctance to enter the spotlight with his powers is very Superman Earth 1, which came out a few years before this. And the speech where Pa Kent says, I took it to someone to test what it was made of, and they said it's not from this world, and neither are you. That's almost lifted verbatim from Superman Earth 1. Which I thought was funny. And also lifted almost verbatim is Clark saying, "Can I still pretend to be your son? I still want to be your son." And Pa Kent says, "You are my son." That is from Secret Origin. Near verbatim. I don't have a problem with moments from the comics being plucked like this for the movie, but it is funny how many of the moments in this film that stand out to me are just moments from the book, and not something that Goyer came up with on his own.
I mean, I think I'd almost prefer, like, maybe a couple panels or whatever ripped as opposed to, like, a whole plot. So I'm okay with that, especially because probably by the last time that the last Superman movie came out, some of these weren't even written in comics yet. So it's probably just nice for fans to see. I know you're not, like, criticizing it, but...
Yeah, no. I like these moments, and all of these moments I'm talking about are well done, but I do think it's interesting that they're all previously written works.
Mm-hmm.
And you talk about the plot being more original, but I am not quite done with the references and inspirations this movie makes.
Can I just say one more thing about this section?
Sure.
So, like, we don't understand why he's drifting around during the section of the film, because it doesn't really give us a reason for him leaving. I mean, I guess maybe he's an adult and just wants to leave home, but they don't really specifically say, and then that leads to the flashbacks, which also was giving me those, like, amnesia vibes, because it's almost like he doesn't know where he is or who he is.
Yeah, it kind of reminded me of First Blood, like the Rambo movie, the way he's kind of wandering around as like a vagabond, but Also, Wolverine in the Fox X-Men movies, he's sort of an amnesiac, and he's also just kind of working in these shitholes in the middle of, like, the Canadian wilderness. So, yeah, no, it's all actually very reminiscent of Superman Birthright. The first couple issues of that has Clark wandering the Earth as, like, this discreet, nomadic hero, where he is saving people, but he's not wearing tights.
He's doing on the down low, kind of.
Yeah. He's actually an investigative journalist, not for the planet, but just doing his own thing.
Oh, okay.
At that point,
they should have kept that here.
Yeah,
because at the end he just gets hired at the Daily Planet.
Would have given him a little more purpose for sure. I did also have the note. Did Pa Kent give Clark instructions to the scout ship's location? Because it's just very convenient that Clark happened to hear these two military guys talking about some ship in the Arctic ice as he's working in this Canadian trucker bar. If he wasn't working in the bar in that specific moment, he would have no idea where to go.
Mm-hmm. I thought maybe it was just kind of like a coincidence, maybe.
Oh yeah, huge coincidence. Otherwise, I guess he's just wandering around, and he didn't know to expect the scout ship.
I also love in that scene the guy where he pushes Clark when he tells him to stop grabbing the lady, and he just goes up and he's like, "Oh, what are you gonna do about it, big man?" And he pushes at him, and then he like pushes himself backwards.
Yeah, I thought that was cool. That was very nice.
His truck getting destroyed.
Oh, crucified.
It's probably one of the craziest things. But he walks out and he sees it, and then his face is more confusion. He's like not shocked enough by it. If that was my truck, and I'd be like, "What the fuck? What did this? Like, that's not natural."
No.
And also probably not in characterization. But
I agree. I don't think Superman would be doing that. I think, I would be fucking terrified if I came outside and I saw that my truck was crucified.
The truck is Jesus.
The Christ comparisons don't end with Superman. This semi-truck is also a Christ allegory.
Jesus trucking. Okay, so Daily Planet reporter Lois Lane receives an assignment to investigate the discovery of a Kryptonian scout ship in the Arctic. Clark enters the ship disguised as a worker and learns from its artificial intelligence modeled after his father Jor-El about his origins, and that Clark was sent to Earth to help guide its people. While following Clark, Lois inadvertently triggers the ship's security system. Clark uses his powers to rescue her from its defenses. He wears a uniform provided by the ship's AI and begins testing his abilities. Unable to convince Supervisor Perry White to publish an article about the incident, Lois tracks down Clark in Smallville with the intent of exposing him. However, Lois drops the story upon hearing of Jonathan Kent's sacrifice, keeping Clark's identity safe while fueling Perry's suspicions.
So Lois in the Arctic, immediately don't really like her. The conversations that she's having, I don't really like this characterization of her. I also wrote down that, she has a Nikon brand camera, and, that's the first of many moments of product placement in this movie. And she assembles her camera with the sensor facing up, which made me cringe. No photographer would be doing that, because dust would get on the sensor.
Can I ask you about the product placement real quick? Because I had that in my notes.
Yeah.
Do you like it or hate it? Because
it's not
sometimes it's a
well
bit much, but other times I do like that it kind of puts the perspective of it being in the real world, although that might just be like how I like to interpret the movie.
I think it's way too in your face. There's a shot, where she's framing up the Kryptonian robot, and it's just got the Nikon logo underneath, and it's just so embarrassing.
I think if it was more maybe subtle.
Yeah. I mean, you can have real products in your movie and it could feel natural, but all the ones that I noticed were really, really obvious. And we might as well just get these out of the way now. So I've got in my notes here, Nikon brand cameras. Lois and her source or whatever both have Windows phones, which is very 2013.
That is, I don't even know if they make those anymore.
No, they haven't made those for like 10 years. It was a tremendous failure. There's of course the IHOP.
I love the IHOP.
The Pete Rose.
Pete Rose?
There.
Who works at IHOP?
Yeah. We've got 7-Eleven, of course, which I believe survives completely unscathed later on in the movie.
They should have had him getting a Slurpee in the post-credits scene.
Oh yeah. And we've got Sears as well, which
Sears is great too, because that's definitely like 2013.
Oh yeah, Sears is dead, and it's also like ridiculously like front and center in a lot of the Smallville scenes.
Maybe it's a big part of the town.
I mean, maybe.
His mom works there. She wears a Sears shirt.
Oh, does she really?
Yeah.
Well, fuck. That sucks.
It should have been Kmart.
It should have been Kmart. Going back to the scout ship, which in my notes I titled as the Fortress of Solitude for some reason, which that's not.
Kind of.
I mean, that's more in the next one, but the scout ship, to me, felt like it was very similar again to H.R. Geiger with the crashed derelict ship in Alien. There's one shot in particular, and I'll have to like find it and show you later, but it looks like an exact copy. Like the shot is framed exactly the same as when the two guys in Alien first enter that room with the eggs. Have you seen Alien?
No.
Oh, never mind. What the fuck am I talking to you for?
You know this. I don't watch movies.
I thought it was weird that Clark pins down Lois, takes off some of her clothes, and then he's making her scream in agony. Like, I know what he's doing. Weird. He's cauterizing the wound, but it was like the way it was framed was a little uncomfortable and not like intimate at all.
I mean, I guess it's not supposed to be because they just met. But yeah, if someone walked in on you watching that scene, you'd be like, no, it's Superman.
Yeah, no, it's like, Superman. He's not, doing anything awful to this woman. He's helping her. I also thought it was amazing that Clark somehow manages to both fake an identity and a work resume that's legit enough to fool the military. Mm-hmm. Because we see him, like, disguised, sneaking in and out of the Arctic base. So it's not like he just flew in, which I thought it was going to be the first time I watched this. No, he, like, was sneaking around. He didn't just show up, pop in, and pop out. He was like, yeah, it kind of
They're not going to hire, like, a nobody. Especially for the military.
No, I mean, you would need some real clearance there to get access to an alien ship, but I digress. So here Clark meets with his ghost dad, not Bill Cosby, but Russell Crowe, and he talks about Krypton's history. And I've got some problems with this, because he talks about the history of Krypton, and he says that it was like this massive colonial empire, 100,000 years. And then when Clark asks the very simple, very obvious answer that I was wondering, and I think anybody in the audience would wonder, why did Krypton fail? They had a flourishing intergalactic empire. Why did they stop doing that? Ghost Jor-El just completely glosses over it. I think that is such sloppy writing. Like, truly the weakest moment in the movie for me, because we're going from a flourishing empire to draining our own natural resources and strict population control. Like, what the hell was Krypton doing? Why did they stop? There's no explanation as to why they stopped their off-world colonies.
They were saving that for the sequel.
Man, I don't think they were thinking that far ahead. I think when this was envisioned, Goyer and Nolan pictured it as a standalone picture. And I think later on, Snyder was imagining sequels, which I believe the second film was supposed to have Metallo as the villain. It doesn't really set up anything. It just seems like very, very piss poor writing to me.
It was a bit hard for me to think that he's like, yeah, everyone died outside of Krypton. I'm like, you're telling me not even like one person died that was a colonist of Krypton, or like lived.
Right, exactly. It would be one thing if it was just the planet, but we've already established with this scene that they've had thousands of colonies off-world. So the idea that he's somehow the last surviving Kryptonian, there is a lot that's not being said here, and I think it's just because they don't have a better answer, that it needs to be convenient like this. I have a lot of problem with all the exposition here because most of it is something that the audience has already seen or heard themselves. Mm-hmm. The opening Krypton sequence already told us, the viewer, that this was happening. This is here for Clark's benefit, so they should have just cut away from this.
Yeah.
The only thing that the opening scene in Krypton gives the audience that we don't get here is the setup for General Zod. And I mean, even then, we get it here a little bit. We see his face, we get the recapped narrated history from Jor-El, and we do see Zod again later. So I'm just wondering why we needed that 20 minutes at the beginning.
Mm-hmm. Or this part here.
Yeah, pick one or the other.
So I had a couple questions about the ship too.
Yeah.
Which I think maybe if justified later. But so this ship is like crashed here from 20,000 years ago. And then it just conveniently has the S-shaped key that he puts his little key in and that like activates the ship. Does that maybe like every group had? I don't know. It was just, it felt weird to me. That and then also the suit they had the Superman suit there. But then that implies that it was like a House of L ship that crashed there 20,000 years ago or whatever. Unless they made it on command, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of like nanomachine stuff going on with the Krypton tech, so that could be it. But it is a little convenient that the technology they used 20,000 years ago is like the same USB-shaped hole as the codex that he's been given. Because it also works on Zod's ship, which is not 20,000 years old.
It's kind of why I think I kind of just chalked it up to Jor, because Jor-El's the top scientist, so I thought maybe that was like his tech. But then also, if it's 20,000 years old.
And if it's also on Zod's ship, I mean...
Yeah.
They must have just, universalized the standard for ports. I mean, we haven't managed to do that on Earth. We've got so many different ports. But on Krypton, I guess everything is the Superman logo.
And that's why we're primitive.
Yeah, that's why we're primitive, because we can't standardize USB-C.
I just have one more thing.
Mm-hmm.
If I remember right, because they had prequel comics for the movie or whatever, and they go and show an empty pod on the ship, and it's open. And I think that was meant to be Supergirl.
Interesting.
But I don't think it was ever followed up on.
I didn't know that they had a prequel comic. Somehow I missed that.
It's either a prequel... I don't remember if it was a prequel comic or if it was just fan theories. But he does look at it kind of weird, which makes me think that there was maybe something there.
Well, yeah, I mean, if there's skeletons, but there is also an empty cryo chamber or whatever, which is also very alien. Yeah, no, I mean, that definitely means somebody got out. That 20,000 years ago there was a Kryptonian. I don't know if they were thinking that far ahead. I truly don't think they were.
Someone just forgot to close it.
Yeah,
maybe. They're like, fuck.
Maybe. So after this we have the tornado scene. And I just think it is completely stupid. I don't think there's any defending it. I do think what Pa Kent says in the truck about how, him and his wife are doing their best and they're kind of making it up as they go along, like any parent. They're being overprotective, like we talked about earlier. That all works for me. But the second the tornado comes into the picture, oh my god, my eyes were rolling.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting one, because first of all, how the fuck do you forget your dog in the car? Technically, his death is on Martha, because she left the dog. Because she closed the door and the dog's like, bro, what the fuck are you doing? Let me out. But I think also during that scene, a big part of why it clicked with me that it didn't work is that this looks like a 30-year-old man sitting next to Jonathan in the car. And I think that he's probably supposed to be in his teens, maybe 18 max, which I think if he looked younger, it might lend a bit more credence to the scene, because it's kind of like a teenager fighting with his dad or whatever, and not also knowing exactly what to do, because he holds his hand up, he's like, don't save me, and that just feels to me like a teenager who's unsure of himself, kind of stopping for a second, and then when the tornado comes, it's too late.
I think you're spot on with that. I think that he is supposed to be a teenager, 17, 18 or something,
but he looks like he's 33.
He looks like Henry Cavill. And I do think they style him to be a little younger than he looks for the rest of the movie, but not by much. They should have had another actor.
He's too chiseled.
Yeah, he should not have been playing himself in that sequence. It should have been a younger actor, just like in all the other flashback sequences, for sure. Because you're right, if it was a teenager and the audience could relate to him as a teenager, we're all confused, we're all unsure of ourselves, we're all scared, and we all listen to our parents. I mean, in situations like that, we do. And if Pa Kent says no, then okay. But if it's 33-year-old Clark that we're seeing, pretending to be a teenager, like Dexter with the wig on, it's just yeah, no, go save your dad, who gives a shit? It's very dumb. I actually wrote down some notes here because doing some research, I was trying to look at some of the more popular Superman stories, and there's actually 2 of them where the tornado actually comes into play.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So, in Superman for All Seasons, there's a tornado sequence, but he actually saves somebody. It's actually the first person that he saves. And Pa Kent's reaction is pride. Pa Kent was actually kind of distant from his son at that point, but after Clark saves somebody from a tornado, his dad loves him and he's proud of him, which is the polar opposite of this.
Yeah.
The whole movie, Pa Kent is telling him to keep his head down. There's another tornado scene in Secret Origin where Clark saves Lana Lang from a tornado, which is also the first time that he saves somebody, And after that, it cuts to his parents being super proud of him, and that's when his mom makes him the Superman suit. So there's 2 other stories where a tornado comes into play. Clark's, instinct is to jump in and save that person, and his parents are happy and they're proud of him. I think that really just leads into my next point here in my notes, which is that I think the movie's portrayal of the Kents is a complete failure. Like, I do understand that, like, they're making it up as they go along, like any parent. They're confused, they're scared, but we never see them teach him lessons on how to be a good person or how to do good. The whole time they're just telling him to keep his head down, to blend in, the world's not ready for you. And, later on when Lois is talking to Martha, Martha's talking about how they knew he was going to be of great service to his fellow man, and how they knew he was going to be a good man and a hero, but we don't see any of that. We don't see any lessons imparted on him. And I don't see the point of having these flashbacks if they're just going to completely contradict what Martha and Lois are talking about. Because we don't ever see Martha encourage her son to do good. We don't ever see that.
I was just kind of thinking that Martha is actually not as present overall, besides her being alive. I mean, she doesn't do much.
I agree. She's in like a few scenes. She's not there much at all in the childhood stuff. Just a very baffling decision. I didn't see anything online about Goyer, Nolan, or Snyder talking about the tornado scene, but I think the entire internet agrees that it is incredibly stupid and has been mocked to death since that movie came out.
I think especially compared to I'm not sure which comic it's in, but in one of the comics, the way that his dad dies is that he has a heart attack, and it's the whole thing of it is that, Superman saves everyone, but he can't save his dad from a heart attack.
I agree. I think the heart attack thing has been done a few times. I know the 78 movie did it.
Oh, did it? Okay.
But I think it also happens in All-Star Superman. Yeah, it's a great way of showing that you can't save everybody. That, people are going to die. You can't save everybody. It's not all within your control. That is a great moment. But yeah, with Pa Kent and the tornado, it's entirely preventable.
We're being told about the tornado because Lois, did she show up? I can't remember if
she showed up at the farmhouse.
But did Clark tell her the story?
Yes.
Okay.
Clark was at the cemetery.
When she showed up trying to talk to Martha, I'm like, damn, she's just dropping like all her son's secrets to this random stranger.
Yeah. I mean, she is. The fact that Lois was able to figure this all out, I think becomes a problem later. When all the shit goes down, Lois Lane is like arguably the most famous, important person on the planet. If I was the federal government, I would be tracking down everything she's been doing, which would eventually lead the feds right to Martha's farmhouse, which should happen anyway, because Zod shows up there.
Yes, definitely. That was my thought, too. He's like, oh, they just landed at this random farm. Oh, well.
But I guess that takes us on to the next section here, where Zod and his crew escape the Phantom Zone, where they were imprisoned. They travel to Earth. They want to turn it into a new Krypton, but they also, before that, announce via the broadcast that we talked about. It's the same one that showed up on the website. The broadcast where Zod says, if you hand over the Kryptonian that's living among you, we'll leave you alone. That is exactly the plot in Superman Earth 1. I read it this morning, and it's not Zod, but there's another guy named Tyrell. He's some alien dictator guy who shows up, and he's like here with a bunch of ships, and he puts out a broadcast, and he threatens Earth, and he says, if you don't turn in the Kryptonian that's living among you, we're going to destroy the planet. I couldn't believe it. It was like the exact same thing. I'm not saying that Goyer's a hack and that the whole movie's script is plagiarized from these books. I just think it's interesting that the influence with this particular book gets even larger once you get to the conflict with Zod.
I did like the Zod message.
Oh yeah, it's terrifying.
It's creepy. It kind of turned into a horror movie for a second.
Yeah, the weird like data moshing effect, the fact that he has this like skull-shaped helmet on, it was very creepy.
And like all the lights cut out. And then there's that weird like high-pitched ringing, and then I liked that part. I liked the way it played out.
That was very cool. Before we get to him turning himself in, there is one important
the Jesus scene.
Yes, the church scene. So throughout the movie, there's Moses and Christ allegories and comparisons all over the place. I mean, the pod leaving Krypton is like Moses in the basket going down the river. We've got the talk of sacrifice, the great power. He is 33 years old, which is how old Christ was. And we have, of course, the Christ pose, which I think happens a couple times in the movie. It might happen with the whales. I'm a little fuzzy on that, but it definitely happens later after he leaves Zod's ship.
That one's really funny. Because
Yeah.
there's no reason to do that. But, well, I definitely had notes about the church here as well. It's kind of random why he goes to the church in the first place. I don't know. I mean, they don't talk about God. I mean, I guess they do. If it was established that they go to church or something, it would make more sense. But he just kind of goes there, and you don't even know where it is. Is it in Smallville? Is it in Metropolis?
That's a good question, too. Is this like a pastor or a father or whatever that he already knows? Or is this just a guy he's meeting for the first time? You know, he doesn't directly say that he's Superman, I don't recall. But I do think he gives the priest some hints at it.
Well, he's like, you know that guy they're looking for? That's me. And then the guy's like, gulp.
Oh, okay. Well, we're going to cut this so I don't look stupid. I thought it was interesting. There was another comic that came out like 6 months before Man of Steel called Superman for Tomorrow, where Superman, not Clark, but Superman visits a church in kind of a similar scene to talk to a priest. I think it's probably just a coincidence. I mean, 6 months before the movie comes out, they would already be deep into production, right?
Yeah.
And there's other comics where I think this sort of thing happens. Daredevil, I'm sure, is the most obvious example. That one shot is so funny. I know it's been memed to death, just like Pa Kent with the tornado, but the stained glass in the background.
I had a note about that because I'm thinking while I'm watching, I'm like, yeah, okay, he's going to the priest because he wants someone to talk to who's not gonna like reveal a secret or not gonna judge him or whatever. And I'm like, besides the church, maybe the imagery isn't too much. And then it cuts to him and the stained glass of Jesus behind him. I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah,
never mind.
They couldn't make it any more direct if they tried. I mean,
funny.
Other than the marketing, which we mentioned before, Warner Brothers did explicitly market this film to Christians with Christian marketing material.
Christian marketing material.
That would be a different movie. Yeah, the S on my chest, it doesn't mean hope.
Sonichu.
It means Sonichu.
Oh, that'd be great.
But speaking of the S meaning hope, he turns himself in. He does a little interview while he's handcuffed with Lois, and he says the S means hope, and that also comes from Superman Birthright, which I thought was interesting.
I think a lot comes from Superman Birthright, but we're gonna go into that later.
It is a lot of Birthright and Earth One, I think. I think those are the two biggest influences. But there's a little bit of everything in here. There's, it's like a half dozen or so stories they're kind of plucking from.
So then they go to the ship.
Yes.
Why does he want Lois to go with them? That didn't make sense to me. He's like, yeah, that woman right there, she's coming with. Is it because he thinks that she knows something?
I think it might be just to keep Clark in line, or keep Superman in line.
Maybe too.
Maybe. Or, she was on the ship. But then again, some of those other military guys must have been on the ship at some point too, right?
No,
before she was? Because she snuck out. She snuck out onto the ship after, like, bedtime.
Yeah, but
she saw him in that picture.
It wasn't because she goes, where are you going, Joe? Because that was his name. And he heat visions through the ice to get to the ship. No one else has been there yet, though.
Right, you're right. So that could be it. It could just be that, Zod and his men think that they have some kind of connection. I don't know how they would think that. They would have never seen Lois and Clark interact.
Well, even if they had, I have a note, and I was like, I never realized how little Clark and Lois interacted before. Their relationship isn't really built up enough for me.
Nope. They don't really have, any chemistry. It feels like in the interrogation scene, it's just two very flat characters. Cavill is playing it way too stoic, and, Lois is, I don't know, just very flat. The chemistry is just not there to me.
I felt like the performances was a big problem with the movie overall. I'm not sure if it was a directorial choice or...
Oh, yeah. I don't think it was the actor's fault at all.
No.
I think Amy Adams is phenomenal, and I think that Henry Cavill, even in moments in this movie, is a great Clark, and he's a great Superman. But for most of it, I think he's being directed in a way where he's supposed to be this, very apathetic, reluctant hero. And I just don't think it works. It's not Superman. It's not what I think of when I think of Superman.
So they go on the ship.
They go on the ship.
And then he gives her the key.
Yeah.
Which was funny because I was like, where was he holding that? That suit doesn't have pockets. So where did he have the key?
Nanomachines, whatever.
Was it up his butt?
Could have been up his butt. I have a note here that, after Clark collapses on the ship, we get that, like, weird dream sequence.
Oh, yeah.
Where Zod is there, like, lucidly. And we get all the exposition for Zod's rebellion for a third time. We have the whole opening in Krypton. We have Russell Crowe, Jor-El talking about it as a ghost on the ship. And then again, we have Zod going over everything the audience knows. And at this point, Clark knows it too. There's no reason for this.
They're just really hammering home that he's a bad guy.
The only exposition here that's new is the, how he got to Earth, which, I mean, did we really need all that?
We could have just seen that as it happened.
Yeah.
A lot of the other stuff, the flashbacks seem like they could have just been put in order.
Yeah, it would have built up to Zod. Yeah, you could have cut throughout, cut back and forth. I mean, we're already cutting back and forth to the fucking origin story.
At least they didn't have Jor-El, like, reintroduce himself when she put the key in.
Oh,
She's like,
God,
who are you? I'm
imagine?
Jor-El, I'm his father. 20 minutes of...
God, could you imagine?
Which she was lucky that they threw her in the broom closet with access port.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Yeah, oh, there's a USB port in the broom closet. Oh, nice. I wrote down a little bullet point here in my notes at this point. Why would Krypton only have one copy of the Codex? Are they stupid?
Well, yeah, it was that skull. Because they were using it.
Sure, it was the skull, but they turned the skull into the key. They couldn't have just made a copy of the key? They have all this bullshit on Krypton, but they didn't have a way to duplicate the Codex? I understand, the Codex is a MacGuffin, but
yeah.
You could have written it so that, it was a MacGuffin that couldn't be replicated, like maybe keep it as the skull, and just have the skull be something that is in his pod that gets sent to Earth? I don't know. There was a way to do it.
I guess it also doesn't really make sense that it's a skull in the first place.
Yeah, why is this single skull the codex of every Kryptonian's DNA?
Unless it's one Kryptonian that they're using as a genetic base to constantly clone? I don't know. Would you even get that out of a skull, though?
Probably not.
Think you would.
Clark and Lois flee and warn the U.S. military of Zod's plan, resulting in a confrontation between Clark and Zod's troops in Smallville. So let's talk about Smallville. Let's talk about this.
Before we do that, quick, I just want to mention one thing.
Yeah, please.
The fact that while escaping the ship, Lois just casually murders a bunch of Kryptonians. I mean, maybe not murdered, but she shot them with no, hesitation.
Yeah, I guess she's covered wars before, Frank West style. So, we get to Smallville. I wrote here, Superman actually saves people. This is the first time we've seen him save people as Superman. He directly rescues a few people, like soldiers. He, saves that one guy from Law & Order, and he saves that other guy.
I noted that too, and I was like, oh, he's saving people. But then also, he saves, 5 people directly, because he saves the one guy that falls out of the helicopter. And he, stare at him, he's like, are you okay, bud? And then the helicopter crashes behind them. Yeah. And I'm like, why didn't you save that? Well, you could put him down and go save the helicopter.
Yeah. And this is kind of the point in the movie where all the action just kind of didn't work for me.
Oh, really? I love it.
I did not. In my brain, to me, it felt like it should have been exciting, but it's just so relentless. It's so nonstop that I feel like I eventually kind of felt exhausted and desensitized.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the fights are better than others. I'm not saying they're all bad. I do like some of the action, but in Smallville, it feels like it's frictionless. I don't know. The way things go, the way objects go through buildings, it feels like there's no resistance or friction at all.
Mm-hmm.
The effects are good. The choreography is good. We talked about Jay Oliva. The storyboarding is great. The actions, it should be good, but I just don't care. I guess
as action, it's good. But in the essence of the story is what you're saying is where it doesn't work for you.
It's right? Too much. It's too much. No, it's just too much, and I just stop caring. It goes on for too long. It is a lot,
especially even later.
Oh yeah, it goes on for
9/11, the whole of Metropolis.
That's actually the best action sequence in the movie. Not Metropolis, period, but we'll get into that. I wrote down here. So we were introduced to the World Engine. When it comes to the World Engine, I only had one note, which is that it is exactly the same as Steppenwolf's machine in Justice League.
It's all connected.
It's right. It's exactly the same. It's just we put down this thing and it's going to terraform the planet. That's it. That's all it is.
Why do they want to terraform the planet, though? They'd just all be gods if they lived there.
That is a great question. Yeah, it's probably just like a pride or a race science thing. Like, we're superior, our world is superior. Even though your world fucking exploded because of your domestic policies. But so we're in Metropolis now. We've got the World Machine. We're in Metropolis now.
World Machine.
I mean, hey, it's
Close
whatever.
enough.
It's the same. Yeah. We've got all these scenes with like Perry White and the other Daily Planet people, and I just put down, I don't care about any of these people.
Pretty much,
Like,
yeah.
I think I think the cast is good. Like, I think Lawrence Fishburne is great as Perry White. He doesn't have much to do, and I think the other people at the planet are casted fine, but they also don't have anything to do.
In that scene, you really only care about Perry, because you see Steve and Jenny like maybe once or twice.
Right, exactly.
I have one thing on the World Engine that I just forgot about.
Please.
I thought it was weird how, because I mean, it's probably running for what, like 20 minutes? An hour? It has to have some sort of repercussion from like running at least a little bit, because it's sending like gravity through the core of the Earth or something. I don't that they don't mention ever again, besides the fact that that's where the kryptonite comes from in Batman v Superman. But that's the only thing that comes from the World Engine.
Oh, you mean like the pollution? There should be some kind of consequence to using it?
Yeah, like it's doing something. It wasn't even mentioned any other time, or like...
Oh, like what's powering it?
No, just the fact that it didn't have any effect on the world or the rest of like the universe that came after. But,
Oh, you're saying after they destroyed it, everything kind of went back
like
to
everything
normal.
that it's done. I don't know. It seemed weird to me.
Yeah, there should have been more consequences. I agree. So the World Engine's been destroyed. Zod's ship is in Metropolis, but
Good scene,
at this
though.
point, the only thing that Zod cares about is killing Clark.
Mhm.
So the location wouldn't matter, right? So we're gonna move the fight elsewhere, right?
No.
Nope. Nope.
My favorite part is when they start to fight and they go up into space and they start fighting and they bring the satellite back down and crash right back into Metropolis.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Oh man.
Like, he could have gone anywhere. He's like, nope, I'm going right back in.
Anywhere. Could have been anywhere. No, the Metropolis fight, I mean, the jokes have been made. Superman and Zod, they do like 29/11s. It is It is very, very bad. Of course, the signature shot that has never left my mind is Zod kicking or throwing the petrol tanker at him, and Superman just skips right over it and lets it blow up a parking structure right behind him, collapsing the entire fucking building, killing it God knows how many people in a city that clearly has not been evacuated.
No one was in their cars. It's fine.
Yeah, I guess. Like, I guess it could be empty. Everyone's at work and they're not. Yeah, probably not. But
Well, he couldn't, because look, when there's explosions behind you, you look so much cooler. He couldn't let that opportunity pass.
No, he couldn't just stand there and just let it hit him.
Block it casually.
Just brush it off because he's a Superman. He has to jump over it like it's a real obstacle to him.
Also, that the worst is when after they send back the Kryptonians and then they kiss, she goes, "They say it's all downhill after the first kiss." I'm like, why are you saying that? This is not the time for that right now. Like, the city around you is just destroyed. It's insane.
Yeah. Thousands are dead. Not the time for quips. The only other part about the Metropolis fight scenes I've got here before we discuss the controversial finale is I actually think that Superman versus Zod one-on-one in the city was actually done really well. I think the action with Zod like discovering his heat vision and Zod hopping around like a dog on the buildings.
That part's crazy.
That was cool. And like that one, the punch, the like over the shoulder, like close up punch shot while they're flying, and just the zipping around between the buildings, like the POV shots of that was really exciting. It's one of the only action scenes that worked for me. So good work there.
Except for then when they just casually truck through skyscrapers.
Yeah.
And kill like 20,000 people.
No, that part I've got a problem with, but it looks good at least. I think that brings us to Zod and Superman in the bank, or whatever that building is supposed to be.
I think that happens after they crash back to Earth. I think is it a bank? I don't know. But that's what happens. They crash in.
Yeah. The fight ends with Superman and Zod in a building, and Zod is going to heat ray to death this family, and Superman snaps his neck. There's a lot to say about this. One thing I did want to mention before we talk about it is some thoughts from the creative. Christopher Nolan actually strongly objected to Superman killing Zod when the film was in production. And I think it was either Goyer or Snyder or both that eventually talked him into being okay with it.
He just wanted him to not save him.
Yeah.
I don't have to kill you, I don't have to save you.
Yeah, it was interesting that, somebody behind the scenes was outspoken against it. Not enough to actually stop it from happening, but...
It was just a text. He's like, do we have to kill him? He's like, yes. And okay, whatever.
For all we know, it could have very well been just a text message. So what do you think about this? What do you think about Superman snapping Zod's neck?
It's definitely more mixed, because it's a little justified. But I think to more justify it, would have had to change a lot. But he's just fighting Zod. And I saw someone make a good point that if he had been saving people the whole time while he's fighting Zod, it would have been tiring him out even more, and then it would have maybe given some justification to I can't keep this up, I have to end it somehow. What are they going to do with him though? Where are they going to hold Zod, even if they do capture him? Because this isn't a superpower world. I guess within the universe it's creating, it's justified to me, and you do see the remorse and regret that he goes through after the fact, although maybe there could have been more. He just kind of screams, no.
I think those are good points. For me, I don't have a problem with Superman killing Zod, in theory. Superman, in my mind... Superman, to me, has never been somebody with a strict no-kill rule. He does what he has to do, and he values life and humanity when he can, but he's got to do what he's got to do, right? If there was no other option... He doesn't have the weird personal hang-ups that someone like Batman does. I don't think it's against his code to kill. I don't have a problem with that. What I do have a problem with is how stupid this scenario is and how avoidable it was. Because the way that it's framed, Superman could have just flown General Zod up through the ceiling, or he could have covered his eyes, pressed his head into the ground,
Yeah.
Or the family could have just ran away. It didn't really look like they were trapped either. They were just kind of standing against the wall. I think it could have been a good scene if it was rewritten to be more believable or more dire, but it just wasn't like that at all.
I thought I remembered the dialogue differently as well, because I could have swore he said something like, I'm not gonna stop, you have to kill me or something. But he doesn't even say that. He's just like, if you love these people so much, you gotta save them. I think if they would have also added more into his dialogue, where Superman could at least been like, stop, you have nothing to fight for anymore, everyone else is dead, why are you doing this? And then he said something like, well, if everyone else is dead, then I at least want to kill you first or something. It would have been a bit more justified too, to do it then and there. Or he's like, I'm not gonna stop till I kill everyone. Or
I agree. They touch on that a little bit when the world engine's destroyed, where Zod's like, I've got nothing left to fight for. But putting that here, Superman should be trying to convince him to give up. You don't hear, again, not Cavill's fault, but he's not saying anything. There's no conversation, there's no talk down. It's just silent action between these two. Afterwards, we get a little bit of a setup for Clark and Superman trying to live a normal life. How do you feel about that?
I thought it was insane that he just took a UAV and just chucked it at the ground. It's like, stop trying to find where I live. I was like, that's not Superman, really.
No, that is terrifying. That is something that I don't think Superman would do. And I love how when the general shows up, he said, because they have to keep a PG-13, the general says,
what are you effing doing? Yeah.
What are you effing doing? He literally says effing.
You get a free fucking PG-13.
Yeah, they should have used it. But maybe they couldn't license it, or maybe they couldn't market it to the Christians if they...
They couldn't license. We couldn't get the license for the word fuck.
Yeah, no, it's... Yeah. I think that is when Cavill's at his best in this movie, is the end sequence. I don't know why, but he seems more likable to me.
As Clark, when he goes to the...
As Clark and as Superman talking to the general, he just seems a little more affable to me. He seems a little more laid back. Now that Zod's gone, I guess that's probably the direction he got. And to me, it just kind of proves, this guy could be a good Superman.
Snapping his neck really gave him some confidence.
Yeah,
I kind of like this job.
I kind of like killing people.
Ooh, I did like, at the end, the part where they flash back, and he's like, oh, I wish Dad could have seen who I am, and then they flash back to him with the cape as a kid. That was pretty good.
Yeah, I liked that a lot. I thought that was very touching. I kind of made me want to tear up a little bit. Like, that was really nice.
Maybe want to snap someone's neck.
If Dad could have seen me then.
If Dad could have seen me, snap Zod's neck.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I kind of walk away from this thinking that Snyder understands Superman the figure, the legend, the mythos, right? But not as a human, not as a person. Because there's such a big focus in the script and in the direction on making this so big. Such a grandiose affair, right? With all this action and talk of gods and destroying the world. And, you know, the stakes are constantly through the roof, but these individual characters, they get no attention. None of them.
It's like action first.
Action first, and I think when these characters don't get the attention they need, the big picture stuff that they're so focused on doesn't matter. I can't bring myself to care. I don't think the movie's like an abject failure. Like, it gets some things right. There's some parts I like, but I think in the end, it didn't work for me.
I agree, and it worked in some parts, but definitely there's not a lot in the character work to where it makes me, like, care. Everyone is very flat. It's too action-focused. Even the spots where it's not action-focused, it's just kind of dull, and it doesn't really do anything that made me stop and think, like, oh, that's interesting. It's a very average movie.
There's one more question I guess we need to answer. Do we think it worked as the foundation for a larger DC cinematic universe?
Yes.
Yes?
No.
I don't...
No, I'm joking.
Okay. I was very surprised to hear you say that, because I don't think it really opens the door at all. I mean, this is a world-ending threat in movie 1, and no other heroes show up.
Do you think it retroactively works in setting up a universe?
I don't know.
Because, like, maybe you could say that he's like, oh, the first big hero, or but then even then that's retconned, I just realized, in later movies, so.
Yeah. I just... I don't know, I don't think it really opens any doors. And the thing is, when I was doing research, it looked like Goyer and Nolan's vision for this was to make a self-contained Superman movie. And I think, you know, maybe the door was open for sequels, like a Man of Steel trilogy, but I don't think anybody, aside from the executives, was imagining this to be a stepping stone into a larger universe. I mean, the most we get is like the Wayne Enterprises logo on the satellite they are fighting with in space.
There's two others.
Oh, really?
There's a LexCorp truck and building. The LexCorp truck drops him off at home, and then while they're fighting in Metropolis, there's a LexCorp building. It has LexCorp on the side. There's the Wayne satellite, which crashes down, and then in the background of one scene, there's a sign that says "Keep Calm" and "Batman on" or something. But that's like in the background, so you won't see it very easily. You have to like look for it. But there's like the circle logo with the Batman.
There's like cringy like Queen of England meme merch.
Yeah.
What?
It's on a poster. You can look it up.
Oh, I believe you. I can't believe it.
I'll find a picture of it.
Please do.
Oh, it says "Keep Calm and Call Batman." That's what it is.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's very embarrassing.
That seems like an Easter egg to me. That's not like they were like, oh, we gotta put this in like Batman's.
Yeah,
real.
I mean, that's not even the same logo they end up going with.
No. So I think we can both agree that it's not the best movie. But what did everyone else think? For the critical response and reception, it has a 57% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is rotten, which I wouldn't think would be rotten because it's like over 50%, but I guess maybe up to like 65 is rotten or something. But it has a 75% audience rating with 250,000 ratings. On Metacritic, it has a 55, which is mixed or average, with a user score of 7.4, generally favorable. It has a A- on CinemaScore, and in addition to the critical reception, there is also a lot of comic creators that were divided and sounding off on social media and in interviews about what their thoughts on the movie was. So first we had Mark Waid, who did Superman Birthright, which we've talked about a lot in this. He criticized the film for its joyless tone and Superman's decision to kill Zod. And he actually has a lengthy blog post, which I linked here. It's pretty interesting to read. He genuinely enjoyed the first 2/3 of the movie, and he really liked seeing his Birthright scenes adapted. And then I thought one of the most surprising things that he had to say was actually about Jonathan Kent, because I feel like he gets a lot of criticism for how he's written in the movie. And he said, "And I think you'd be surprised to find that I loved everything about Jonathan Kent. I loved his protectiveness, even when it made him sound like an asshole, like with the maybe scene. And I loved that scene where Clark didn't save him, because Goyer did something magical. He took two moments that, individually, I would have hated, and he welded them together into something amazing. Out of context, I would have hated that Clark said, "You're not my real dad," or whatever he says right before the tornado. And out of context, I would have loathed that Clark stood by frozen with helplessness as the tornado killed Jonathan. But the reason that beat worked is because Clark had just said, "You're not my dad." The last real words he said to Pa Kent. Tearful Clark choosing to go against every instinct in that last second because he had to show his father he trusted him after all. Because he had to show that Pa could trust him and that Clark had learned. It was a very brave story choice, but it worked. I kinda wish I'd written that scene.
Insane. Absolutely insane. I don't know what he's talking about.
That one surprised me.
That is very surprising.
I think I had told you, I was like, one of them has a pretty interesting take on a scene. I think he has a good idea there, but I don't know if I agree with him 100%.
I understand what he's saying, but it doesn't work for me that those are joined together. He's saying, he's saying like, Clark not saving him is his way of saying to his dad in the final moments, "You are my dad, and I'm going to listen to you because I love you." But that doesn't work for me. It does not work for me.
Grant Morrison expressed mixed reactions, saying, "I kinda liked it and kinda didn't, to be honest. But it felt like one of those ones where it's like, bring on the second movie now that you've done this. And I don't need to see that as someone who knows all about Superman. For me, it was a bit of seen it before, no matter how much they tried to make it a little bit different. I'm more looking forward to the Dark Knight version of Superman, the next one, where hopefully it'll have Lex Luthor and be some fantastic second act." They go on to say, "But I'm not sure about the killing thing. I don't want to sound like some fuddy-duddy Silver Age apologist, but I've noticed a lot recently of people saying Batman should kill the Joker. And yeah, Superman should kill. He should make the tough moral decisions we all have to make every day. I don't know about you, but the last moral decision I made didn't have anything to do with killing people, and I don't think that many of us ever want to have to make the decision whether or not to kill. In fact, the more you think about it, unless you're in one of the armed forces, killing is illegal and immoral. Why would we want our superheroes to do that?" I thought that was a pretty powerful quote.
No, I think that's the best part of his quote, is like, yeah, I've seen this all before. I'm waiting for the next one where you actually do something new and exciting.
And then Jim Lee had a positive opinion. "It's epic, it's got a lot of heart, but one of the things that was kind of missing from the last Superman, I think, was the action. And this movie has it in spades. You get to see all the power of Superman in all its glory. I think people are going to be blown away." Which I think is just...
yeah.
It's like a very, like, corporate kind of shill.
Possibly. I don't know where he was in the company at this point. Should we take a look at that?
He might have been this...
Let's take a look at that. I'm going to look him up on Wikipedia.
He's not the CEO.
Oh, he was promoted to president in May 2023.
2023, yeah.
Okay, never mind.
Okay,
so let's just assume he's just a guy. To me, Jim Lee's quote is like something that a 6-year-old would say. I'm not trying to insult the man. I understand wanting to see the action, see the powers, see the fights, but that is not what makes Superman interesting to me.
And I think that's even exemplified more now that we have the new Superman movie.
Or the old one.
Well, I haven't seen that one, so I don't have comments on that one.
Okay. But Christopher Reeve Superman, it's not because he's like exciting to watch fight. It's because he's a great guy.
So
I gotta pee.
Okay.
I'll be right back. You go ahead and read the numbers.
Frank's pissing his pants. So for the aftermath of the release, we had some box office numbers. Its reported/estimated budget was anywhere from $225 to $258 million. And for the final totals, domestically it made $291 million, internationally it made $379.1 million, which all came together for a total of $670.1 million worldwide. Additionally, there was an estimated $120 million from DVD and Blu-ray.
So, with the public reception and box office results of Man of Steel, Warner Brothers was satisfied. I feel like I have dentures sometimes. I don't know what the fuck is wrong with me. So, with the public reception and box office results of Man of Steel, Warner Brothers was satisfied, making it the first entry in their planned cinematic universe. Goyer was hired back for a sequel and an eventual Justice League film with Snyder to direct both. For the sequel, Snyder contemplated the inclusion of Metallo, with plans for Brainiac further down the line. Eventually, he decided that instead of trying to one-up Zod with his raw power, it would be more satisfying to make Superman's new adversary someone that audiences had been waiting for him to interact with on screen for generations.
Thanks for watching this first episode in the DCPU.
This is an audio program.
But if you put it on YouTube, then you can watch it. You can watch the audio waveform.
All right, Mr. Technicality.
Thanks for listening
Yes.
to the first episode of the DCPU. Tune in next week as we discuss the next installment in the DCEU, Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice.
I'm surprised there's no holiday cinematic universe.
Have you ever seen the Santa Claus 2 and 3?
Oh, you're right. I forgot. Kudos.